Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Behind the Reel podcast. We've got a special guest for you tonight, Mr. Randy Carpenter, also known as the Garmin Guru. If you guys have been looking into getting a Livescope or maybe wanting some tips on your Livescope or any of your Garmin products, you've likely seen a video or two of his, and he's got a lot of really good instructional, information-based videos out there. So more than likely you guys already know him, but if not, make sure you check him out over there on YouTube. That is Garmin Guru. And we're going to talk some Garmin stuff here tonight. And I do also want to encourage you guys to put your questions and comments over in the live comment feed, and we will get to those just as quickly as we can and try to work those into the podcast tonight. So for those of you guys that are watching this later on, you can come back and watch this thing. But for those of you guys that are going to be tuned in live tonight, we'll try to make this as interactive as possible. And do me a favor, guys, if you can, share this with some of your friends real quick before we get started. Share it in a group if you guys have maybe a group of local folks that you guys fish with, or just shoot the link over to a buddy. We'll try to get a few questions funneled in here tonight. But appreciate you guys tuning in. We're going to go ahead and bring Randy on, and we'll just get right to it. Hey, what's up, man?
How you doing, man? What's going on?
Doing good tonight. Just hanging out in the garage. Looks like you're doing the same.
I am. I'm trying to stay out of the cold. We actually got a little bit of ice down here. I mean, this is the ice apocalypse. We're shutting it down here.
Yeah, I heard. The South, they don't know what to do when they get some ice.
We're not prepared. The roads already falling apart, so they falling apart even worse. We just shut it down, and that's it for us.
I'm curious to know what that does to the fishing.
Down here in the South, we don't have we have some Florida strain largemouth in some of the places, but if you get a 10-degree water temperature drop down here, like a real rapid, it'll shut it down because they're just not used to cold. Everything's a gradual warm up, everything. Nothing really just. You don't have these bomb blizzards like they do up north where, drop down into 0 degrees. And I mean, it's a little bit different down here, but I still go.
Yeah.
I look at them. I don't mean I catch them, but I do look at them.
Heck yeah. Well, you get to see every little move they make on Livescope.
Yeah.
Before we get into that, that's definitely something we're going to talk about here in just a minute. But for those people that maybe have been following you through social media, you've got a really big following on Facebook as well. You've got an awesome group there that I've just recently learned about, and
right.
Lots of information on there, lots of interactive stuff too. And even some guys from right here in my neck of the woods said, yeah, like that's my go-to group right there. So for some of these guys that maybe don't know you, just introduce yourself maybe real briefly, kind of how you got into this role as the Garmin Guru, and then maybe even just before that, like where you got your start fishing and like.
Right. Well, I tell you what, first before we start, I think we need to, God's number one in my life. And I want to make sure that, that's kind of the basis for everything I do. And I believe that's important to get out there. Some people don't want to hear it, but it's part of me. It's a big part of me. So I need to share it and let everybody know. That's kind of the way we run our page too, So I watched a lot of the other pages. It's kind of the way I got started. I was at work, middle of the night, and I had a YouTube page that didn't have many viewers. And I said, I see all these pages, these Facebook pages, and everybody's always, somebody says, how do you orient your transducer? I know you've seen that question 1,000 times, and there's always 1,000 smart aleck questions. Read the instructions.
Yes.
Here's the thing. I just got tired of reading that. And I said,
the trolls. You're talking about the trolls.
But they're just everywhere. So I said, I'm going to create a page and a YouTube page that doesn't act like that. If you have that question 1,000 times, we're going to answer it 1,000 times, or we just kind of take you off the page. And, be nice. And, some of these people that get Livescope, they buy it used. You get that a lot. People buying used stuff, or they It doesn't come with instructions. Garmin instructions aren't super clear. That they don't do a lot of instructions in their stuff. So that's kind of the basis of the way we built the YouTube page.
Yeah.
In some of the videos, they seem very, very simple, but we try to make sure that we teach I want to teach everybody, whether it's 70-year-old man first fishing or a 20-year-old guy that's really good with electronics, get him out on the water. And that's kind of how we got started with the page. But as everybody knows, Patrick Walters, he ruined me and he ruined a lot of folks on Lake Fork. He was over on Lake Fork and he did that and they let it go. I sold every bit of the Humminbird stuff I had the next day and bought Livescope and it's been on ever since. It's been a fun ride, so. Yeah.
And so when was that? I guess when was your introduction to Garmin? Was it
probably what was that? That was about 2.5 years ago, because that was during the COVID, and they pushed all the events back, and they were doing the full, on FX or whatever channel it was, where they did live. They went live pretty much the whole day.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing going on, and fishing was one of the things everybody could watch. And he was fishing that jerkbait. I think it was a mega bass or something.
Probably, yeah. He
was fishing that and catching them, and I said, I got to go do this. I've got to figure out how to do it. And that's kind of how I got started with Garmin. I bought a Lowrance the active target, and it just didn't fit my eyesight. It's not a bad unit. It just didn't fit my eyes. I just couldn't make it work for my eyes and what it looked at. So I kind of stuck with Garmin and kind of did the, do one thing, do it well. And kind of went down that road with it. And that doesn't mean I know everything, because I look at all these pages all day long, and you see people with a bunch of problems, and that's kind of how I get my videos. I see people bring up 20, 30, 40 problems, and I'm like, let's go figure it out and make a video about that. And that's kind of how I make the videos if I see somebody having a problem with a certain, like uploading a new update, I go make a video. And I do all the testing and things like that.
While that's on my mind here, one thing that I saw, and I will admit, I don't think I went through and watched the video. Update your units with an SD card, not through Active Captain, because I'll tell you, I've been doing it wrong apparently.
Well, this is what Humminbird took it away from their app. You used to could update through the Humminbird app, and if I'm not, Humminbird doesn't allow it anymore.
Well. Their app kind of flopped, is what happened.
Well, back when the early last year in January, when they introduced color limit, and I had to eat a little crow on that, because I thought it was going to be the great thing. And then once we got to playing with it, we realized it was kind of to me, it hasn't been a great thing. I hate it. Matter of fact, if you turn color limit all the way up to 100, it literally looks like Humminbird. It looks just like Humminbird Mega Live. Next time you're on the water, take color limit, turn it to 100, and it'll look just like Humminbird. And we figured, even Garmin told me that what happened was so many people crashed the app, got on the app, that it wasn't a quality upload. And then if you upload through the app, you can't go back to a previous software update because it's not there on your computer.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a best of both worlds. I decided, I said, we're going to update with an SD card. That way, if I don't like it, I can go in there on my computer, grab an old one, force update it, and go back. You can go back. Once you update through Active Captain, you can't go back, because you don't, unless you find somebody that has it on their computer, and you can do that. But that's one of the reasons I started doing it. And one of the common denominators, matter of fact, today, somebody sent me a message, said, I'm having problems with this. And the first question I ask every single time, how did you update? And 99.9% of the time, the ones who answer Active Captain, I say, go back, find the card, update with a card. If you can, force update with a card, and guarantee you it'll fix it. 99% of the time it does. It fixes it. For some reason, it's just a better quality, and it's supposed to be the same update, but it never works the same. I don't know why that is.
Okay.
Maybe you can answer that.
I don't know. I know that it's worked for us. So, but I could see where it could maybe maybe cause an issue if you wanted to go back, right? I mean, that's really the big deal there, I think.
Well, I tell you, somebody told me, somebody who was really good with technology said it could have something to do with your phone not being up to date, like having the most up to date software, and like older phones, people using Active Captain on older phones, and
Yeah,
you got a lot of technology crossing up in there, and
sure.
so I think that could be some of the problem. We got older phones that are out of date, and you have apps that are not up to date, and you're downloading there's a lot of stuff that has to be in unison there, and that's when you go to the computer and it goes straight to that SD card, and that's a good update, and you stick it in there, boom, and I tell you what, it's a lot faster too. It seems to be a lot quicker.
That does that kind of makes sense there. Okay, so you said you spend all day looking at these groups. I don't want to sell you out. Are you doing that during work or?
I've worked in the forestry industry, so I look at it off and on. I usually, I have some free time. Like it's raining today, so we're not working at all. So we're just sitting at the house watching TV, and I kept my little girl because Louisiana freaks out. It's 33 degrees outside, and we shut down the schools and daycares and everything. So we don't.
I think our water temps are 33 today.
Well, so I do look at those the other groups because I want to learn, because not everything, somebody posts something different in every group, and you can learn from. Trust me, I never want to stop learning, because that's what.
Yeah.
And here's the things, like I watch Josh Jones. He's arguably probably the best forward-facing sonar guy out there. Him and Milliken's really good, and there's some other ones that are really good, and I watch them, and it's hard for me to equate that, because I don't have, like, for example, he's fishing at O.H. Ivy. Mm-hmm. The lake down the road that I go fish at, it's got 10 foot of water in the middle.
Yep.
It's 90% of what I fish around here are oxbow lakes, bayous, which are just slow moving streams. They I mean, up north they probably just call them rivers. I mean, but we got the bayous. There's swampy waters. We have a few big lakes, but a lot of it's just oxbow type lakes. So I had to learn how to take a little bit of what he did and put it with a little bit of what I did, and create a whole new technique and a whole new style of fishing for Livescope. I see, for example, when he fishes an A rig, he uses, I think, like a 7'11" or almost an 8 foot rod. Man, if I threw an 8 foot rod, I'd be tangled up in every tree over here. So that's possible for me to do that. So I had to kind of adapt my techniques and kind of take the best of his and the best of mine and put it together. And when I did that, I had to learn how to use Livescope in a way that not a lot of people probably use it. And so it's different. It's definitely different.
Now, I'm kind of glad that you brought that up, because you get people all the time on these groups, or, they'll call in and they'll say, what do I need to put my gain at? What do I need to have this at? Like, how do you respond to those people? And is there a good number that maybe could be good for everybody?
Well, I'll tell you what I have found, and I've been from everywhere from Missouri I do lessons on the side. You can go to my website or message me on Facebook.
Shout it out. GarminGuru.com. What is it?
Yep. TheGarminGuru.com is my website. Or you can go to the Facebook, you can go to the YouTube. You message me and I answer back. I take pride in the fact that I answer every single message. My wife gets on me all the time. She's like, get off the messages,
Yep.
But you can come to me, but a lot of people, I'll go out on this. I've been to Missouri, I've been to Texas, I've been to Mississippi, Alabama, South Louisiana, Arkansas, and I have found a pretty solid set of starting points. Now, I'm not going to say that they're exact, because every unit is just a little different. I think the units are different more than the settings you need to be for each set of water.
Okay.
I think, like, for example, I have found that 68 gain is pretty much great from Texas to South Louisiana I went to Table Rock, which is clear as water you can get. And 68 just worked good all the way around there. Now, do you need to go up 2 or 3 points? May, just depending on how your eyes see it. but 68 is a wonderful starting spot. And I'm going to tell you, when I send somebody, they say, what are your settings? I got a list of about 8 that are pretty standard. And what I tell everybody, I said, take these 8 set of settings and adjust off of them. And then if you get lost, come back to these center points and start again.
Sure.
And if you want, we can go through them. I mean, we can kind of go through some of them that I use.
Yeah, that'd be great.
First and foremost is gain. I use 68 pretty much. It's pretty much, I hardly ever touch mine. And when I say 68, I mean like forward and down mode. When I turn it to perspective, that's a whole different story. We can talk about that in a minute. But
sure,
in terms of forward, 68 gain. Around here, and this is where this kind of comes into, I guess when you get out to like OHIV or Table Rock, that 80 to 100 foot may work. But around here, I use about 60 foot for bass fishing. And then, of course, I use about 30 for the crappie fishing. Down in Louisiana, we call them all white perch. And they're
okay.
we're stupid down here, man. We call everything white perch, whether it's a black crappie or white crappie. Everything's a white perch now.
I thought you were gonna say sockeye. Is that
down,
Mississippi?
No, that's way down below I-10 down there. That
okay.
South Louisiana. That's a whole different group of people down there.
Okay.
That's way on down there. I'm up here in the top of Louisiana. So
there you go.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I use 30 foot for crappie, 60 foot for bass. I know a lot of the guys that hunt them, they're in that 80, 90 foot range. But I just find it better that I just stay in that 60. I get a good consistent idea of what the fish looks like. I know my casting distances in the 60 foot. When I see them in 80, I just figure this is one thing I try to tell people when we're doing lessons. You need to get it to a settings in a set of parameters that you don't adjust as much. You're fishing instead of playing with settings.
Yeah.
That's why I come up with those baseline settings for everybody. Once we get you dialed in, leave it alone and now go learn how to fish with it instead of sitting there, because you can toy with settings all day long.
Yep.
This. And so we do the gain 68, the forward distance. I have a little bit different way of looking at the bottom distance, the depth. This Livescope is a church style transducer, which means it chooses the frequency that's best for the readings. Okay, so as we get out further and deeper, and I ain't got no scientific proof on this. I've just seen it lighten and darken, so I know that it changes as you go out. If you set that distance out to 100, the screen will darken and lighten. You can watch it change. Yep. As you change the depth wise, it will change. Like if you make it, if it's 15 foot of water and you set it on 30, the screen will darken up. You've seen that. Like you can sit there and turn the knob back and forth on the 1222. Yep. And you'll see that screen change. So it's a chirp style transducer. What it is the closer it is, the higher frequency. That's just like mega imaging. Mega imaging doesn't work good at 400 foot. Matter of fact, you won't even go that far. You have to use the lower frequencies to get out further. So what I have figured out as a way to clean up the screen is say you're in 15 foot of water, I'll set it on about 8 or 9 foot deeper. Instead of setting it that 3 foot like we used to learn when we first started, if it's 15, you set it on 18. Now I have found that if I'm on 15, I'll set it on about 22, 23, 24s, about 8 to 10 foot deeper. And what I'm trying to do is fool the unit into thinking we're in deeper water. That way it'll change the frequency a little bit, and that in itself helps clean up the picture. I don't know the exact scientific, but I really think it lowers the frequency, because as it goes further away, it's got to lower that frequency in order to keep that picture the way it needs to be.
That makes,
what do you think about that's my thought process on it, but it's just going from what I see on the screens.
I think we might have froze up there, but we're back now. Yeah. Something that I think that makes perfect sense. I guess I can't confirm that for sure, but it does. It makes a lot of sense. Something that, for whatever reason, this popped into my head while you were talking about lower frequencies. Have you tried out the XR?
That's but the XR was kind of what gave me the
idea.
kind of the idea to think and start thinking when they said it'll go out further, but the frequency's lower.
Yeah.
So what it is in order for them to pick up that high detail way out there, they've got to lower that frequency. So I said,
sure.
That's when I started thinking, you know what, in order to fool this thing into thinking we're in deeper water, to lower that frequency, we got to fool it, because it knows, it only knows the depth you're telling it to. Okay, if it says we're in 18, it's chirping up. Okay, the chirp transducer is going through its little calculations and it's figuring we need this frequency. So I'm going to try to get the lowest frequency I can. And that's going to, lower frequency, as you know, if you go through over something with mega imaging and then turn around and look at it with the lower frequency, you don't get that much detail. Yep. So it lowers that detail limit. I think it cleans up the picture. From what I've seen, it cleans up the picture. And so by doing that, you can use less noise rejection. And by using less noise rejection, you're going to get the image won't have that delay. If you put it on high noise rejection, you get that little bit of lag, because that black box is having to decipher all that stuff, and it takes a second for it to actually. So if you jerk your jig up, crappie fishing, you'll see that lag. You'll jerk it, and then it takes a second. So the lower you can put that noise rejection, the better it's going to be, in sync with your bait. You'll get a little bit, better. It'll be right on tune as opposed to having a lag. And that's what you want to do. To me, I want to have the rawest image I can, and try to balance that clean image with a raw image right on that line.
I think an important thing to take away just from this 20 minutes of talking to you, for the people out there that are listening and maybe that watch your videos and maybe want some of your insight, like, nobody told you all this stuff, right? So I think it's important for people to maybe take some of the information that you're giving them, pay attention to those settings. Like you say, it's a good base point. Absolutely. But also use your own reasoning, and come up with this stuff as you go along. Obviously you're dropping some knowledge here, so there's less thinking I have to do, which is great. But you come up with this stuff on your own. You didn't wait for somebody to tell you how to do it, and hey, maybe you didn't wait for somebody to tell you what button to push. You just figured it out.
Well, I got to playing with it, and I give you a good example. Color palettes. A lot of people say, I'm colorblind. So what looks good to me on the screen may not look good to you on the screen. And we got to kind of playing around with stuff. And I said, for example, when the sun, the old standards, when you try to use the amber early and then the sun comes up and everybody uses black emerald. That was kind of the go-to. And I said, are we missing something? Because black emerald, one thing it does is it shows all the artifact in the water. Screen gets really bad. So I was like, how can I keep my settings the same and still see what I need to see? Because one thing about black emerald was there's not a lot of contrast. It's green or black.
Yep.
So you have a lot of trouble seeing, for example, if there's a brush pile, seeing the fish in each brush pile, because it doesn't offer a lot of contrast. So what I did was I got over a brush pile and I started flipping through the color palettes. And I found, I was like, wait a minute, blue's pretty good, for seeing, because when a fish shows up, you'll see that little red dot in the middle of a fish. So when I was looking at a brush pile, I could see each individual fish. And then when I switched back to emerald, I was like, wait a minute, I can't even see it. It just looks like a blob. So I was like, just that trial and error. And then I stumbled across probably the best thing I've ever found was, I was out really early one morning before daylight, and my color was on auto, which was in nighttime mode, and it really blackened up the background. And I was like, this blue is amazing. And then the sun came up and it switched to daytime mode and it went to that light blue, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute, what happened? And so what I figured was, so I went in there and you push the power button, very easy to do, push power button, turn it to nighttime mode, and the color palette of blue and the color palette yellow, which is unusable in Livescope. It's got that white background. It looks like the old PS22.
Yeah.
Horrible. All of a sudden, blue has a black background And then yellow has a black background, and yellow and blue are awesome for white perch or crappie because you can see individual fish inside of brush piles because of that good strong signature return. So I figured that out. That was just something from tinkering and playing with it, and
Yep.
that's what I tell everybody to do. Find the one, my eyes ain't your eyes, so
Yep.
find what works for you and learn. Hey, don't be afraid to go to different color palettes. I know amber, everybody loves amber. It's wonderful, but there's some other color palettes that are great for different situations. And amber is best for showing that beautiful three-dimensional detail. Blue's not going to show you that detail. It's going to look a little bit more cartoonish, for lack of a better word. But you're going to get great target separation with blue because of the way those strong returns have that little red dot in the middle of them, so you can see those big white perch or crappie or big bass, because they'll have the strong returns and the small fish will not have those strong returns or that red dot in the middle. So that's something that's from trial and error and really going through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that a lot of people, they're just looking for the easy answer. They're looking for that magic number. And as you said, I mean, just because it looks good to you and that's what works best for you doesn't mean that's going to be, the same for me. But I think it's awesome that and that it's funny about the 68, on the gain, because I mean, it looks great in the muddy water up here too. So it's definitely a good place to start. But just as you guys get those recommendations, you get those settings, I see people just, oh, well, I need so-and-so settings, and I'm just never going to have to touch it again. And it's just, understand you're always going to have to tinker with it. And it could be different from day to day, lake to lake, sun up to sundown even. So.
Well, I have. It's not as bad with the 34, but the 32 was really bad about sun rays. Yeah. When that sun would come through there, if you had pollen in the water, the 34 is not quite as bad.
The hummingbird's pretty bad about it.
I didn't even know I didn't know that was in the conversation. We could talk about the active target. We could talk. I didn't know hummingbird was in the conversation. Hummingbird has entered the chat.
I got my Garmin on today. I got the Garmin on today. So
mine. But here's my thing was this with Hummingbird. I knew that they weren't happy with their product when they started. As soon as it come out, they started advertising 360 again. They went right back to 360. Mm-hmm. You see more advertisements for 360 than you do their Mega Live or whatever their garbage is called. Yeah. And so I knew that.
I mean, I think we all know who reigns supreme in the forward-facing world. Although I think we'll see some things get shaken up. I'm really excited to see what people do with Active Target 2.
Yes.
And my expectation is I feel like maybe we're just kind of leapfrogging each other a little bit, making small strides. I mean, obviously the technology is there. But I think Lowrance and Garmin are definitely, leaps and bounds ahead of Humminbird. I hate to say that as far as their forward-facing technology goes. But that being said, I think it might have been on your page. Somebody asked about Humminbird, I believe. Maybe it wasn't on your page, but I want to say it was. And they were asking, why should somebody consider Humminbird over Garmin? And they I don't think they were really asking specifically about forward-facing sonar. So, right. Humminbird is still kind of hanging on to a couple things, and Mega 360 is certainly one of them. Lake Master's been a really big one. I want your take, though, and I don't know that you've seen it yet or not, but the Navionics Plus mapping.
Right. Well, Lake Master, it's kind of the standard. And then you got the what is Lowrance got, the C maps. They're right there. Lowrance, Garmin was not good. It was not good. So much so that even a lot of places I would just quick draw contour my own maps. I just make my own maps because they just never were right. And you see that a lot, that people have Garmin everything, and then they'll have one Humminbird map unit up front. Yeah. And I see that so many times, and that's when you've got something, and I know KVD, one of the things he talks about more than anything, his wins, always he talks about, those Lake Master maps, because they are I have seen my Active Captain app and be looking at it, and somebody pull up their Humminbird app, and he'll go, I was right here on this, and mine will not show that hump or will not show that point. It's just I know that they're supposed to, be good with the new Navionics, but I haven't heard anybody say anything, especially in the South. We don't have a lot. I mean, we have Toledo Bend and we have Caney Lake, and then you got to go to Texas. The mapping is horrible. They're just, because we do have such small bodies of water. I don't think I've ever bought a map card except for Lake Fork. I never have. The only map card I've ever bought for Lake Fork is the run card over there to the dangerous, because like I said,
the boat lanes. Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I've never bought it because we do it, because I know that people have it though, that when I was at Lake Grenada, I was at Lake Grenada at PTG Outdoors. Really great place. It's just a place over there. We do really nice folks over there, good Christian folks. And we were having a crappie blowout for Grenada. Pretty cool place. And I pulled up to the lake, and you couldn't even see the lake. It's like 30 foot low. You can't even see it. And every guy that brought their boat in had the same thing. Had the Livescope up top with a Humminbird at the bottom for maps. And even some of the guys had told me, they said, I've got the new Navionics chip, and I still use the Humminbird. It's still better.
Really?
So I'm not sure that they've really just done nothing but relabeled the things, and just because they just bought that. Well, they've had Navionics for a while. I guess they're trying to step their game up, but I haven't seen it. I haven't seen anybody that says it's that much better. So,
well, and I will say maybe my experience is a little bit different, because I'm from the land of Garmin, and the Garmin maps are pretty dang good around here.
Right.
So maybe there's something to that, right? Just the amount of survey time or whatever.
I don't live on a lake that has great map. I don't live near lakes that have great mapping.
Yeah.
And so that's where I use the quick draw contours and make my own maps.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, when it does a good job, and I just turn it on and go fishing.
Exactly.
And we just fish different around here as opposed to y'all. I don't know what you're, like I said, the lake I was fishing the other day, we're talking about the 10 foot in the bottom. I mean, 10 foot. It's just it. There ain't nothing out there. I mean, every one of the lakes are really close to identical. You'll have a channel, but as a whole, we fish cypress trees. I mean, they hold fish 24/7, 365. And that's why I had to learn how to change my fishing style. I mean, I throw an A-rig in the place of a spinnerbait. I mean, I showed you before we got on a bait with that has one in the back, just one swim bait with 4 arms to keep it deflecting off of those cypress trees. And you talking about absolutely jerk your rod out your hand. But, you get an A-rig hung up around here real fast, so you want cries when you see it 4 foot down there and you can't get it. That hurts
you watch your snag it right on the screen.
Oh, it makes you so mad. Oh, it'll make you cry.
I'm curious to know, I'm seeing a lot of people in your neck of the woods making this purchase. Is that something that took a little bit longer to catch on in that part of the country? And have you seen that really take a hold of your local tournament scene? Like, what does that look like now versus what it did a year and a half ago?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I think around here it's because of it's more of an economics thing.
Okay.
Money's a little tighter around here. It's a little bit different around here than it is. You go to Texas, them boys got $150,000 sitting on a trailer.
Yeah.
The average guy here has a 16-foot John boat. I mean, there are some big bass boats. But
sure.
The guy in his garage, if you drive through the neighborhood's got a 16-foot John boat or a 16-foot bass tractor. And like I said, we fish shallow water. So, a lot of them just say, hey, man, I've been catching them for years. I don't need that. And that's the way a lot of people are. And it's just now starting to gain traction. It's just now starting to, get some traction and get some, momentum going. And even what's crazy is that I see this a lot. And you'll see it on the Bass and BASS and MLF. There's forward facing sonar up there, but they don't use it that much. They truly don't. There's a few guys, you got Patrick Walters who really uses it. But there's these guys, they'll have it, but you never see them looking at it. They never use it. And I think they're missing the boat. But with MLF going to the 5 fish limit, and that's going to bring some boys back into the mix, because, you had to catch 100. Now all of a sudden you got to catch 5 again.
Yeah.
And that's going to bring some boys back into the mix. And so I think, like you said, down here in these tournaments, there's some people starting to use it, but it's just going to take some confidence level, where people catch a fish. And because, like I told you, Josh Jones said it the best. We fish for 9 hours and look for 1.
Yeah.
He fishes for 1 and looks for 9.
Yeah.
And I heard him say that. I was like, what the heck is, what's he talking about? Then I got to realizing, and when I tell people when I do my classes, I said, you need to get it out of your brain. Get out of your brain how you used to fish.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to, if you really want to use Livescope effectively, you got to change how you fish. You got to change your mindset. If you still want to just go down the bank throwing a spinnerbait, take all this off your boat and don't worry about it, because you don't need Livescope to do that.
Yeah.
You really want to target bigger fish and target bigger fish and target those bigger stringers. You got to get that 100 fish mentality out and go after those 5. Target 5 and go after 5. Mm-hmm. And so by doing that, what I have done, and I don't know if you've done it, I've changed my whole style of fishing. Whereas just about every fish I do, I see before I cast out. I've even went so far as now I run a perspective mode and a forward mode at the same time.
Yeah.
And I see almost every fish I cast at before I cast. And that's something I try to tell everybody. I said, be patient when you're out there fishing with it. Don't just throw at every single fish, because you'll get caught up chasing a 1-pounder for an hour because it's cool. Because you watching him run around and it's fun, and you catch him and he's this long.
Yep.
If you really want to catch bigger fish, and I can tell you this, I've caught 81 fish over 7 pounds in the last year, and that's big for me.
Wow.
We live in Louisiana. There's
80. What'd you say?
81. I caught 81 fish over 7 pounds, and
wow.
And I did it all with Livescope, and I want to tell you, I saw.
Have you caught 81 fish over 7 pounds before Livescope altogether?
Man, I probably didn't catch 20 over 7. No, I ain't never caught that many though.
But that's crazy, right?
Caught a lot more. I've never caught that many in my life in 1 year. That was unreal.
That's crazy.
And one of the things that I did was I learned. I had to learn how to fish different. So if you look at the rods on my wall, and I'm looking at them all right here, I got 20 different brands because I couldn't. I mean, I was sawing the ends of them off, looking for this right rods, because an A-rig rod, it's 8 foot tall. You can't throw that in cypress trees. You'll be hung up. You'll be so aggravated you want to kill yourself. You just want to jump out of the boat and go home. So I started trying to come up with my own rod. So I would take rods and cut the butt off, and then put the little thing back on, the little butt pad on. And I started developing my own rods to get what I wanted, because I wanted to be able to throw an A-rig, but I needed a shorter rod. And so, and I'm going to throw this out here. I'm going to plug myself a little bit here just for a second.
Yes.
I got with a company out of Texas, out of College Station, Texas, JB3 Rods, really awesome guy. And I called him and I said, hey man, I got an idea. And I know everybody's heard this, man, my rods are different than these rods, and my rods are different than these rods. Mm-hmm. And like, for example, Josh Jones has done some rods with Dobbin, and they're different. They're not the same as everything else, because he decided I need to fish this, and this, and have this kind of power. And I called him and I said, look, I got an idea. And I said, I want to mute the sensitivity a little bit on rods. I want to back it up a little bit. And I want to shorten some stuff up, shorten some rods, change the action on a little bit, lighten the action. He said, do what? I mean, because for years we fished off a feel.
Yeah.
You didn't have eyes. You could see the depth and maybe go over a brush pile and see it on the fish finder, but you backed up, you felt it. Now our eyes are our hands.
There you go.
So I thought to myself, I said, the first few times I would fish a jerkbait or a swim jig, I would see him come up and hit it, and I'm already sitting on go, and I would jerk it out of their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, God, man, I can't. I mean, I'm missing more fish. I would see these big jokers come up, hit it, and I said, I got to do something different. And so I said, look, why don't we soften the rods, soften them up a little bit. Let's shorten the butts a little bit. That way we can work on accuracy of casting, because we're casting at fish. We're not just rearing back, chunking to an open set of water.
Yeah.
We're directly casting at fish, whether it be a swim jig, a jerkbait, surprisingly, frogs, topwaters, and things like that. We're casting directly at fish. And so I said, let's shorten the butts so we get a little bit better accuracy. Let's soften the tips just a little bit. And let's come out with a line of rods. And this is not for the Ivy type stuff. This is for that target style fishing, the southern waters type fishing. I said, let's create this rod. And so we created a whole line of rods, that I have made. And they'll be out in a couple of weeks on my website. And they're targeted at Livescope. So they're a little bit muted sensitivity. So when you get that bite, you don't jerk it. It takes a second to feel them and to feel that fish. So therefore you give them a little bit, because your eyes are already sitting on go. And if it takes a second to feel, then you're like, oh gosh, there he is. So you're not jerking it out of their mouth. And so just a different thought process went into doing them. And I thought it was different. And I can tell you personally, it's helped me catch a lot more fish, because I've been using them for a little while, but we've been tinkering and prototyping on them for a while, and we pretty much got them ready now. So they're coming. So
heck yeah, I like that. And you see people trying to tailor their products, whatever they are.
Absolutely.
Okay, whether it's a thumbnail or a video title or whatever it is, but like this truly is tailored to forward-facing sonar. Another product that I think does the same thing is Bait Pop.
Yeah, I know Danny real well.
Tell me about that.
Well, I like it. I used it. He sent it to me. He called me up, and Matt from 3 Pound Fishing. Me and him are pretty good friends. I know you've seen some of his videos before.
Yeah.
Really, really nice guy out of Illinois. As a matter of fact, he's down in Shreveport now fishing a tournament.
Nice.
He called me and said, hey, look, I got a guy that wants to talk to you. He's seen your videos, and he wants you to try something. No strings attached. You don't want nothing from you. He just wants to send them to you. Matter of fact, he sent, there it is right there. He sent, this is one of the first batches he sent me. He said, I just want you to put it on your bait and tell me if it shows up better. He said, if you like it, make a video. If you don't, throw it away. I don't care. I said, okay. So I made a video, and look, it's not going to take your bait, which is, let me see here. It's not going to take this a swim jig with the hooks gone. The skirt's gone. It's not going to take this bait and make it show up like a basketball.
Sure.
But what it's going to do is just amplify the returns to help. Some people put it on their line. I put it on my swim baits. I'll take it and put it in my swim baits, and it just amplifies it, makes it a little bit easier for and this is great for the older guys that crappie fish, because it's made from the people that make the original fish formula. Just trust me, I've got all this sitting behind me. I wasn't just ready. It looks like I'm ready for all this. You're
in the garage, man. You got all kinds of cool stuff at your disposal.
Station, man. This is my wife tells me if I do have a TV right back there. If she said she was going to take it out of here because I would never come inside. But I did a deal on it, so it doesn't actually. It's not going to make it a basketball, but it's going to help amplify the return some. And a lot of times with a lot of the guys, if you don't know a whole lot about seeing your bait and those type of things, it can help you. And we all know this one thing: the best bait you will ever put on the end of your line is confidence.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you get in a bind that you hear the pros. What does Jason Christie do when he needs to catch a fish? He picks up what?
Spinner bait.
That's his confidence lure.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times this is going to help it's going to help you see your bait some. And it works good, and it really does good. And I know the formula they put in there is it seems like it gets stronger every time because I've watched I watched this, and I'll tell you what, it seems like it has a stronger return every time. I use it for
what? What is it?
They have a bass version too. I was seeing, yeah, it's like a gold. Just it's got a different color to it. And
is there like metal flakes in it? Is it like UV or?
Man, I wish I knew. I probably made some money. I don't know what's in it.
Okay.
I wish I did. I wish I could spill the secret, man, but I don't know.
Now, what about like you're seeing a lot of these jig heads and stuff that are, sonar mode or whatever they're calling them.
Well, you have if you kind of understand what Livescope is. Livescope is essentially when your wife goes in and gets that ultrasound. I know we've all seen it. You see the little cone come down and the baby gets inside the little cone and they tell you whether it's a girl or boy. That's what Livescope is. It's essentially ultrasound. And the gel they put on your wife's belly or to make it work, that's what the water is doing. It serves as that. Okay. So, that's what the water is. So what you gotta, so that's all Livescope is that it's just an ultrasound. Mm-hmm. So, by seeing that, that anything that it hits, whether it be metal or any harder object, is going to cause a strong return. So those heads that have those in there, if they've got those angles and things like that, they may help some. What I have found more than anything that amplifies the return is glass. I have put glass beads, like the little Carolina rig glass beads.
Yeah.
I have slid them down over the top of this is before I started playing with bait pop. I was looking for ways to make it do. Yeah. And I slid a glass bead down. And what it was is I was out there one day and I did a test and I said, I want to know which one shows up better. Now, trust me, I've had a bunch of people watch this video and I've had a million haters, because I put a piece of lead, I put a piece of tungsten, I put a piece of steel, and I put a glass bead on my line and I dropped it down. And I said, which one causes, we were going to see which one had the best return. Does tungsten, my thought process was tungsten was harder. So therefore it would bounce the rays back. But in my opinion, and I can't be what I found was that when the beam would hit it, because it is so hard, it would just bounce in every different direction, and the return wasn't as good on tungsten as it was on I thought lead may be because in X-ray, lead absorbs X-rays, so that's how you keep so I thought maybe lead wouldn't be as good, but I found glass and lead to be better than steel and tungsten, and I thought it would be the other way around. But I actually did the test, and then I had some people say, well, it ain't the same because, they're closer to the beam. So I flipped them and did it again, but there's no perfect test out there. But I truly believe that a little glass bead, little red or clear glass bead, just drop it down right below, almost to your knot on a crappie bait will help it literally just explode in the way you see it. You cannot believe what it'll do to it. I mean, that thing will be down there glistening. Like it looks like it's sparkling because the glass, the way those beams bounce through that glass, it works. So find you a Carolina rig bead, slide it down over the top of your knot. It'll actually help protect your knot too. Kind of double. I put red. I just slid it right down over the top of it, and I'm gonna tell you what, it don't bother the crappie, and they will tear it to pieces, and you can see it so much better on Livescope.
That's a good one. I don't think I've heard that one.
Yeah, a little something different, so just thinking outside the box, trying my best.
Yeah, well, no, that's a common theme with you, I can tell. And I think that, that's how you get results. You don't you don't ask for the magic formula. You know,
Right.
you figure it out yourself, and there's no replacement for time on the water for sure.
I think that I saw that on one of y'all's videos, you know, and that's one of the things they said, you know, and I tell everybody, I said, I can tell you how to do it. I can show you how to do it. And maybe I can get you to click in just a little bit. But until you get on the water and really start to break it down and test for yourselves, you're never going to get it, because we want there to be that perfect magic number like you talked about earlier in the show, but there's no perfect. There's no my eyes ain't your eyes. And so you got to get out there and test it. And you got to get out there and experiment. And when you experiment, you may just find something. I mean, who in their right mind would think about throwing a swim jig with no trailer?
Yeah, exactly.
Who would think about that? I mean, that the standard is put a trailer on the swim jig. Somebody even asked him that the other day. What you know, he was talking about 2 new colors. I saw it. He said, somebody said, what jig trailer you put on there? I was like, they finna tear him up.
Yeah.
Him alive. I mean, and son, he had 85 people eat him alive.
Yeah.
And because Josh Fishing's, and I got out there one day and I said, well, I got to try it.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah.
I do not know why a swim jig with no trailer works, but maybe it's, you know, it's just thinking outside the box, trying something new. And so that's pretty awesome.
We know now that these fish are more pressured than they've ever been. And they've seen, I mean, they probably don't see a ton of swim jigs out in, you know, 50 foot of water, you know, but they've, so I think that's what it is. Like, we just got to show them something different. Right. And so we're always looking for that new bait. But it doesn't have to necessarily be a new bait. And I think that's a great, you know, example of the swim jig's been around forever. And, that's what he's tearing them up on. But how is he making that stand out from all the other swim jigs? Well, 1, he's off the bank, you know, 2, you know, he's definitely minimizing that profile. So those are things that, you know, you're looking at with like your A-rig. That's kind of an abnormal A-rig there, but it doesn't look like all the other ones that they see.
This is it right here. This is nothing but arms with one in the middle, one swim bait in the middle. That is totally different than most A-rigs that get thrown. But I have a question for you. And do you think that as with Livescope and forward-facing sonar, people are moving further off the banks? Do you think that the banks are the new deep water? Because people don't fish. If you go to these lakes, nobody fishes shallow anymore. Everybody's deep.
I'm hoping so, because I still love to fish shallow. But
I tell it this is something that I'm going to pull one out for you. This is when I'm at Lake Fork, I catch. There's 3 kinds of fish, in my opinion. There's fish that are shallow, there's fish that are deep, and there's fish that migrate. Fish that stay shallow all year long, fish that stay deep all year long, and the fish that migrate back and forth. One common denominator I have found, because I use perspective mode and forward mode a lot, is that 99% of my big fish come within a few feet of a brim bed. And so I'll be looking for brim beds. And whenever I see, especially at Lake Fork, and I think Gerald Swindle was on brim beds this year too. When I see a brim bed on my forward-facing sonar, matter of fact, I went over there just 2 weeks ago and had a lesson with a guy. And I went to a brim bed I knew was there because I marked it. And I went to it and I showed him, I said, there's a brim bed. We were looking at perspective mode and I said, there's a big fish on it. He said, what? He said, the water temperature is 43 degrees. I said, throw your bait over it. Throws his bait over it, boom, catches him. 6-pounder. I said, fish stay by these brim beds. I said, the bigger fish, what I have learned by catching bigger fish is they eat brim more than they eat shad, in my opinion. So I started throwing brim style swim baits. And I started making these big brim hand pours, and I started catching fish where I used to throw shad baits. Now I throw brim style swim baits, and I'm tell you what, it's a trick on fork. If you've ever been at like at nighttime around lights, and you see those brim swim up, what do you think them bass are up there eating? Every
Yep.
one of them come after them little brim. They're about that long, and they just gorge themselves on it. And when you catch a big bass and put him in a live well for pictures, you go back here after you drain the live well, there'll be 3 or 4 brim dead in there. So that's something we've learned, or I have learned. I'm sure there's people that know this, but I have learned from Livescope is every time I catch a big fish, there's a brim bed really close. And that's a shallow water technique that I try to tell people. And so throwing a swim bait that looks like a brim may seem, a lot of people ain't going to do it because everybody wants those shad.
Yeah.
But if you want to catch those giants, you want to catch those giant fish, sometimes throwing that brim colored swim bait is the ticket to really catching a giant.
Something just a little bit different.
Yeah. That's a little bit different.
I'm curious. Are you still good? You don't have to leave quite yet.
Well,
You're getting there.
Hear them loading up. They're going to my little boy staying
Okay.
in the house tonight, so they went out the front door.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good for a few minutes.
Okay. Well, I've got something that I wanna have you touch on briefly here.
Yeah.
And this is a question that I get a lot, and I don't always know how to answer it. It's hard to quantify it, especially to somebody who hasn't used Livescope before.
Oh, here we go.
But let's say somebody's on the market to purchase forward-facing sonar for the first time ever. They're seeing all these different options. They're seeing all these different price points.
Right.
What would you tell the guy that is trying to debate between the LVS 32 and the LVS 34?
Well, I always tell there's so many LVS 32s on the market right now, used ones. You can get a good used one and get into it at a lot cheaper price. Look, when you dive into 34, you're diving into $16.99 minimum. If the cheapest 9-inch unit you can buy is what, $700, that's the 93 UHD, their first one, that generation.
I think, yeah, right. The plus, yeah.
So you're looking at $2,500 pretty much. Mm-hmm. You can get a good use. A lot of times you can get them for $1,200. So I tell everybody, if you're not sure, if you're just wanting to see what it's about, go with the used 32s. Go with that 32. If you're looking to buy new, then I ask them this one question. Mm-hmm. Are you a crappie guy or are you a bass guy?
Okay.
Because the 34 to me seems like it's stronger in the further out distances, but maybe a tad bit weaker in those closer distances. I know that a lot of the crappie guys and a lot of the crappie pros, a matter of fact, the reason I have a 34 on my boat through this day is a crappie pro.
Got rid of it.
He gave it to me. We went on a lesson. He said, I hate it. He said, I hate it. You can have it. We took it off his boat right then.
Wow.
He put his 32s right back on. But a lot of the crappie pros, they like the 32. And they say it's just better in those closer distances. But the 34 is notorious. The 32 is notorious for this, though. You see a fish out there at 60 feet, you think, man, that's a giant.
Yeah.
And you get to 30 feet, and it's 3 fish, 4 fish. Whereas the 34, you see a big fish out there, you get in close, he's still a big fish. You know what I'm saying?
Target separation. Yeah.
Yes, target separation is much better. So if you're a bass fisherman, I say definitely go for the 34. If you're a crappie guy, don't hesitate to go for the 32, or especially if you're a little bit tighter on money like that. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. Something that I will just a shameless plug here. If you guys are looking at getting a used LVS 32 system or any used marine electronics for that matter, check out russellmarineproducts.com. And we've got LVS 32s up there. Like, we're getting ready to load some more up, $850.
That's what I'm saying. You can get a good price. And it may be what you need to see before you dive into $2,500.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what else you can do too. You can get the cheaper 32 and maybe get a bigger unit.
Yeah.
And at a later time, upgrade just the transducer to that 34.
That's a good one. Okay. If you don't mind answering that one then.
Yeah.
What if you had to pick? Do you go with the 34 and a 93? Or do you go the 32 and a 1222?
32 and a 1222 all day.
Okay.
I'd rather go the big screen.
Yeah.
I can work around it. I can work around the 30. I mean, I caught a lot of fish before the 34 ever came out. I will never go back to a 9-inch screen.
Yeah.
Just ain't happening.
GPS map versus Echo map.
I'm a GPS map man. I like the turn dial. I really, really like the turn dial. The turn dial to me is better with gloves. It's if you got fat fingers, look at them some sausages right there.
Yeah.
If you get in there and you get to tapping on that screen, you're going to end up pausing it. It is aggravating, especially if it's cold and you got gloves. That turn dial is accurate. Gain, forward distance, down distance, or depth is the only three that you really play with when you're fishing. So
very easy.
That's what that dial does, and it does it accurately. So I'm a 12-22 guy. And, of course, I got lucky and got the 34. I'm a little bit blessed for that. So, but if I had to take my choices, 32 and a 12-22 over a 30 and 93 every day.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, and for those of you guys that don't know, like on the 12-22, you've got like a volume knob there, and that's how you're going to make your gain adjustment, your forward and your downrange adjustment. You push the button, it changes the function, and you can toggle in between those three functions, and that's basically the only three you're going to need, you know, on a regular basis. So super easy. All right, well, you got to head out.
Man, I'm finna head out.
Okay.
But I just want to thank everybody for joining. And like I said, hey, check out my YouTube page. It's fun. And, you know, I'm going to have the rods coming out. I'm going to shameless plug one more time, thegarminguru.com. It's just thegarminguru.com. And the rods will be on there within a couple weeks. And we're going to start having those out. And just, but last but not least, I want to thank God for everything that he gave me and all the blessings he gave me. He gave me, I have some beautiful children and a beautiful wife who, number one, puts up with me. And we probably all need to thank her, too, because everybody's wise. Because, man, they put up with these. Because we go fishing 10 hours and we watch the kids for 2 and think we've done something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I want to thank God first, and I want to thank my beautiful wife. She puts up with me and allows me to chase my dreams here or something. Because, you know, without her, I'd probably be lost. And so I just want to thank those two. Those two, you know, God and her is very important to me. So, may all of y'all, I hope everybody has a blessed day. And I do thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. We need to do this again. We need to, I'd like to have some conversations that, you know, like, you know, about fishing when it's tournament time, man. That's when I like to get into it. I get into big, so we get into some MLF and some bass conversations, man. I love those.
Let's do it.
I'd love to get into it and break down some of the tournaments. Those are fun. We need to have some of those videos. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Heck yeah, man. Well, I do appreciate you coming on. It was nice to meet you. This is really my first time meeting you, you know, and I really feel like I did. So I know a lot of people watch your videos. They, you know, they feel like they've gotten a chance to meet you, but this is a little bit more interactive. And I think that your viewers will be happy to see this later on. And we might even be able to make this available over there on your channel.
I hope so. And I'm honored to be asked to be on this. And we probably, you're right. That hour flew by. We probably could talk for 2 or 3.
I know.
I don't know how long people would stay around for it. But, thank you again, man. And
yes, sir.
God bless everybody out there, and y'all stay safe, man.
All right. Have a good evening, man.
All right. Thanks, bud. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, guys, there it is. Randy Carpenter. He is the Garmin guru. And for those of you that haven't checked out his channel, make sure you do so. He's also got some other stuff going on that we mentioned here tonight. And go over to his website, and it's thegarminguru.com. I'm going to flash it up on the screen here for you for those of you that are watching. And this is his store. He does some hand-poured baits that you can see here. He's also got some merchandise. If you want to support the channel, that is definitely a good way to do so. And then he's also got some other products that with some companies that he is affiliated with. So some cool stuff going on there. He's got a lot of really good videos for you guys to go back and check out as you try to learn this forward-facing stuff on your own. You know, you've got people like him that you can rely on, that you can fall back on. And as we mentioned in this video here, in this podcast, it's good to collect that information. It's good to be able to kind of bounce ideas off of somebody. It's good to be able to take that information that they've been successful with and try to implement that into your own system. But it's not, necessarily going to be a fail-proof method. Just because he's doing it doesn't mean that's exactly how you are going to implement that on the water. But if you can take little tidbits here and there and you can work that into your style and see what works for you and what doesn't, I think that's why we have, channels like his and ours where we're just sharing ideas with each other. And this is something that we're all obviously passionate about. And we're just, as you can tell from the conversation, Randy is, feels like he is blessed to have the opportunities that he does. And I definitely share that as well. Good chat here tonight. All of the Garmin people that are going to come on here later on, I definitely want to thank you guys for tuning in to the podcast tonight. I know we have tailored a lot of our electronics information to Humminbird. I've recently started doing some more Lowrance videos, and we'll start doing some more Garmin stuff as well. So let me know what you guys want to see on the next video when it comes to Garmin, because that is something that obviously we know Randy's put a lot of videos out there, so there may not be a ton to cover, but let me know what you guys are interested in seeing. And it sounds like that I really wanted to touch on as well. And that group is Garmin Guru, all things Livescope and fishing. If you go over on Facebook and you type in Garmin Guru and search under the groups, you'll be able to see that pop up right away. There's actually a really big following on that page. And as he mentioned, you're not going to get bashed by the trolls when you ask a question. So that's kind of a cool different culture over there. Something that I've seen on a lot of these Facebook groups are there's a lot of people out there that participate in these groups that aren't participating on the water. And from my experience, those are the people that have bad attitudes. Those are the people that, feel a need to point out other people's shortcomings or whatever, oh, you didn't know this, or oh, you didn't know that, or oh, you should have searched for that before you came here and asked the question, or just try to belittle you for wanting to expand your knowledge on something that we all share a passion for. So I think that was a really cool thing for him to kind of lead off his introduction of his Facebook group. Was kind of the prerequisite that you just be, a good person and treat people nicely. Like, I think that's a pretty novel concept. And it definitely gets left behind in modern day social media. So shout out to that group over there. Make sure you tune in and follow that group, because I think there's a lot to be learned there, especially from people that are willing to share their knowledge. So guys, before I just keep rambling on here, I do want to thank you guys for all tuning in, and we'll be doing this again here shortly. Chances are we'll be back here Wednesday. I'm pretty sure I've got a guest scheduled. I have to go back and see. I know there's a Wednesday coming up where I don't have anything scheduled at the moment, but for all of my local Kansas guys, know that I am talking to the Kansas Department of Wildlife, and we are going to have the director of the fisheries director, I believe, on the show here very soon. So that is one that we got coming up. And we also have 10 Horse Monty coming on as well. So excited to have him on as well. And he's another one that has done a lot of Livescope videos as well. And there's a lot of information-based stuff on there. So excited to have him on, excited to have the Department of Wildlife on, and definitely going to look forward to having Garmin Guru on here again. So guys, if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. Check out the podcast playlist. We've got a bunch more of these, and we're happy to have you guys join us, and we're happy to be able to continue to do this and just talk fishing. Like, how cool of a concept is that for us to just be able to hang out and talk fishing and share what we're all passionate about. I'm going to go ahead and get off here, and we'll see you guys on the next one.